I'm Matthias Niemann of PIRCHE, and today I'm going to host the 7th episode of our this year's webinar season. And this episode is basically on our oldest matching modules, I guess, and that's the batch matching module, also called CSV modules. So until now I presented you a couple of modules where you could enter your patient data and donor data just in a convenient web form. And this is all working pretty well if you are working on a day-to-day basis with it and want to have some support by the system, things like that. But for retrospective analysis, it doesn't make a lot of sense to enter all your patient data one by one and donor data one by one, copying the data, whatever, and copying the results back into, let's say, an Excel spreadsheet. So the idea here is that you can enter a gazillion of patient-donor pairs and get the results rather quickly, and the best thing, it is in a machine-readable format, so you can do your statistical analysis directly on the dataset without the hassle of copying data forth and back. So I guess let's jump into my screen and I show you more about the data formats and how you can post-process your data. So again, let's go to our PIRCHE website and log in using our credentials. So we want to check out the CSV matching modules. So basically these are all modules which have CSV written in the end. So let's start with the HSCT multi-patient module. So basically you have two panels here. The lower panel is for your patient and donor data, and the top panel is for a few more settings. By pressing this example button down here, you get a rough idea how the data should look like. Basically you have a comma-separated string for the patient, and that is followed by a number of donors. And after the last donor for a particular patient, you just enter an empty line with just a comma in there. And then you can start all over again, having a new patient with its particular donors. The patient ID and donor ID is actually completely arbitrary, but please make sure it is unique within your dataset. So here in the search setting, you can now set some, I would say, metadata. Like for example, if you want to send the results here via email, you can check the first box. Or if you want to store the results on our server, which is a good idea if you have very large data sets. Also, you can export the extrapolation for low resolution thingies. So now let's press the match button. This might take between seconds and hours depending on the size of your data set. So basically on the result page here you now get again a text field, and that contains your results as CSV. So you can either copy now this data, for example, to Excel, or you just download the CSV file by pressing the button. So now let's check out how the SOT multi-patient module looks like. I now have a small example data set here. Basically this is the same data format like for the HSCT multi-patient module. So you have your patient ID, and this is followed by all of your HLA values in a comma-separated form. You can have multiple donors below one patient, and please make sure to always terminate a patient-donor block with an empty line that only has a comma in there. For the SOT module, you additionally have the population setting here on the top of the page, NMDP European haplotypes from 2007 for imputation. So this population will actually be used for all of your patients and donors. But sometimes you have the case where you want to select different populations for each patient, or only for a few patients or a few donors. And this is actually now possible. Basically you have to add the pound key at the end of the row, and this is followed by a specific population ID, and these population IDs you find in that help box over here. Additionally to sending our results via email or storing our results on the PIRCHE server, you can also export the extrapolation raw data here, and in that case you get a very big file that not only contains the aggregated match result, but also all the high resolution steps that were taken to achieve this aggregated result. And finally, there are some options to skip the high resolution extrapolation. For example, if you want to skip extrapolating missing loci So if you want to only check out ABDR typings and not rely on the imputation for C and DQ, for example. Let's press the match button, and now you get here the resulting CSV in that text box that contains plenty of columns to give you the most options to check out your data in post-processing or in statistical analysis. So now let's download this CSV file here and check out in R how we can load that data. On the left hand side we now have our R console, and on our right hand side we now see the PIRCHE R file, which is basically a pattern or help for you to load the PIRCHE result file. This is basically available in our data pipeline GitHub repositories. So we will copy the link here somewhere in the video description so you can easily find this. And the script basically loads a few libraries, of course, imports the data file, and does some pre-processing steps to make the data more accessible. And finally, that script, just as an example, creates a summary of that file and creates also a dot plot, and this should be actually printed onto our page. Let me just load that script, and it immediately created that plot. Let me make that a bit smaller. So what you can see here is basically the summary of that file. I just limited that on a few columns here, like for example the PIRCHE 1 and PIRCHE 2 scores. So this was our SOT example, and we have here a minimum PIRCHE score of 9 and a maximum of 29 in that example. So, and in this dot plot here you see all the individual cases from 9 to 29, and also the median and mean, which are here in red and green. I guess that's it for this week's video. I want to point out again that we absolutely appreciate every research project that's running on our platform. That's why for research purposes the platform is always free, and we are happy to support you as much as we can in your projects. So if you have any questions on data formats, on post-processing, or if you have the feeling that something is too complicated to be used in your workflow, then just let us know. Drop us an email, use the contact form, contact us however you like. I hope you liked this episode, you learned something, and I guess that's it. So see you next time. Bye.